Live. What's good, everybody? My name is OP, Artist Relations Manager for Serato here in the Brooklyn studio. Today is an absolute incredible day. This is the day for the release of Serato Sample 2.0. This is about to change the game. The future of sampling is here, and it's here in your hands because we now have added stems into Serato Sample 2.0. Now, if you've been following the trajectory of Serato over the past year or so, you'll note that about this time or so last year, we introduced stems into Serato DJ Pro, and the whole DJ community went crazy. The amount of people have been doing remixes, live on the spot, and edits, and blends, and so on and so forth, even to the point that tracks have now been coming out officially because of blends that people have been doing on TikTok and IG and so on and so forth. Changed the game for DJing. Once that happened, we listened to our customers and said, you know what, let's add stems into Serato Studio. So towards the end of last year, we added in the stems into Serato Studio, our DAW, which you can copy over at Serato.com. And again, the producer community went crazy on it. People like DJ Khalil and Cook and Soul and DiBiase and a bunch of other folks, even Boston Sherry, big up Boston Sherry, jumped on with the stems and started creating fire tracks across the board. Stems have changed the way that we're able now to think about sampling for our production, right? Even to the point that I got a chance to sit down with Timbaland at his home studio and show him how Serato Studio works with the stems. Was an absolute amazing opportunity to be able to do that and to be able to show the community the power of the stems and how it's changing sampling. So we listened to our customers. People kept on saying, yo, when you're gonna add the stems into sample, please put stems into sample, like all the time on IG and on Twitter and so on and so forth. And so we listened, we took the time to really put it together right, and it's here today, right now. So you can go to Serato.com/sample right now to download Serato Sample 2.0 with stems built inside of it, right? This will work inside of pretty much any DAW that takes audio units, VST, or VST3 plugins. It's officially supported with Logic, Ableton, FL Studio, and Machine, but again, across the board, as long as your DAW can take that type of plugin, an audio units, VST, or VST3, then you'll pretty much be good to go, including Pro Tools if you're using a VST wrapper as well, right? So you have the ability to be able to jump in and use the stems for your sampling purposes. Now, why is this really great? So with Serato Studio, what a lot of people were doing, or even with Serato DJ as well, when we introduced the stems, is that they would stem something out in either Studio or DJ by trying to record it and then bounce it out and then try to bring it into their DAW to start working with, right? And those take some steps, right? And mind you, Studio is an incredible DAW, so some people will finish stuff directly there, but if their workflow was in Logic or Ableton or any other DAW, they'd have to take another step to make this happen, right? Now, with Sample 2.0 being here as a plugin directly inside of your favorite DAW, you can do all of your stemming directly inside your DAW with a click of a button, but also keep your same workflow that you're used to in your DAW, right? So this changes the way that you're able to get those ideas moving really fast and get tracks done, right? So if you want to copy this, again, Serato.com/sample. Let's go to the website here and go check it out. So here on the website on Serato.com, if you go to products, under products, you'll see under music production, we have Serato Studio, and then we have Serato Sample here, right? And when we click on Serato Sample, this will take you to the sample page. And as you scroll down, you'll see that you can do a free trial. You can do a 30-day free trial. So if you want to check it out and see if you get a little vibe for it, you like it, you can do that. And then after that, you can choose to either buy or subscribe to it, right? So if we go here to the pricing, under the pricing, we can see that you can subscribe to it for $9.99 a month, or you can buy it outright for $149. With the subscription, it's great because you can rock with it for a while. If you need to turn it off for a minute because of whatever financial reasons, you can do that and then turn it right back on again, and then you're still good to go and you're rocking, right? Or if you have $149, you can go ahead and buy it, right? Subscription or buying, you still have the power of sample with you to be able to go with, right? So there goes the pricing. If you go here under resources, you'll see that we have a bunch of free sound packs that are here, right? So we have the sample starter pack, provided by Loop Masters. So there's a bunch of sounds in here that you can use royalty-free to be able to start sampling with. So if you don't have other sample sources to work with, then these will be great for you to use. And you can use these with stems as well. And we also have the Serato Sample core pack. So we've taken the best of our sounds and put them together into this core pack for you to be able to use. So there's different types of loops and drums and bass and instruments and so on and so forth, all built inside of this core pack for you to use high quality files, all royalty free, that you can use also again with the stems. Now, if you're new to Serato Sample and you don't know kind of how to get around with it, then you can go here to the tutorials. And with the tutorials, it'll show you how to get set up using FL Studio, Logic, Ableton Live, and Machine, but also how you can sample and use the stem separation, right? So these videos are all here. Once again, big up to the whole Serato crew, my man Destruct and my man Sonny James for helping out with the building of these videos. I would definitely suggest that you watch these videos because they give a lot of information on how you can use Serato Sample with the stems to make that all come together, right? So we got the tutorials there, and then finally, if you want to download as well, then you can come here and you can download it, right? And this is really important. Make sure you check out the system requirements here for both Mac and for Windows. Super important, right? You need to be on a computer that's at least 2017 or later. So if you're on a 2015, or for some of my DJ friends who are still holding on to those 2012 computers because they're still rocking with you for whatever reason that is, this is the time to maybe consider to upgrade your computers to something newer that you'll be able to work with, right? 2017 or later. You can be on an Intel, i5, i7, or i9, or M1, M2, or higher. And I can tell you for myself, I've been on an M1 and M2 computer recently, and it's been flying incredibly well with those computers. But again, it will work with the other computers that are Intel as well. And again, for Windows, here you have all the information for it. For Windows, right? So make sure you check out the specifications, and also make sure you check out the operating systems, right? Officially, this is supported with Ventura, Monterey, and Big Sur. So you want to make sure you're on one of those 3 operating systems if you're on a Mac computer, and then on Windows here, Windows 11 or 10 as well, right? So make sure you check out the system requirements, download it, and get busy. Now, as a part of this update, VST3 has been added on for Serato Sample. So this is going to allow us to do a lot more things in the future for the plugin, with it being at VST3. And again, the stems is added in, revolutionary, changing the way that you're able to sample by being able to separate by the vocals, the melody, the bass, or the drums directly inside of Serato Studio pretty much instantly, right? So what I'm going to do here today is I'm going to go through 2 demo tracks here. The one that's here on the screen right now is one of the Serato Sample videos that we put together. And I'm going to kind of break down all the different parts of how this all came together, right? So I'm going to do that on this one, which is more kind of like a hip hop style track. And then I'm going to do another one that's more a little bit on the house side of things. And then after that, I'm going to actually try to build something live with a couple of different samples and show how you can get drum breaks, for example, use keyboard mode, and a bunch of other things inside of Serato Sample to show you the power of what it does, right? So let's start off here. When I was putting this together, I wanted to kind of create something, interesting with a bunch of different types of samples, both samples that we were able to clear, right, and license, but then also taking some one-shot sounds to be able to add in to kind of create some flavor, right? So with this one here, I'm going to bring everything back to its original form. And as you can see, what's really interesting is as I start to use the stems here, right on the screen, you can see that the waveform starts to change automatically, which is crazy, right? But let's go through and listen to it in its original form. And then from there, start to take stuff out. So this is the original sample that I was working with, right? This is at about 71 beats per minute. You go with the drums, right? So I'm gonna take out the drums here. Take out the bass. Take out the melody. That's crazy to be able to get an acapella that clean, but also if I want to just the drums or the melody or the bass with a click of a button, insane, right? So what I want to do is I want to go here and I want to just get the melody here. So I'm going to bring this back here just a little bit so we can hear what this sounds like with just the melody here. Okay, cool. So what I was thinking when I started putting this together is that I wanted to kind of take these beginning parts here and then also grab a little part back here too, right? But I wanted this to be faster than 71 beats per minute. So what I did was I pressed the sync button. And what sync does is that it automatically will time stretch and sync the sample to the BPM of your session. So my session here is at 91 beats per minute, and it automatically time stretches it and syncs it to that, right? While still keeping the same key and not having any artifacts with the time stretching because of the built-in pitch and time algorithm inside of it. It's the #1 time stretching algorithm on the market. It sounds incredibly clean, smooth, regardless of how fast or slow that you go in BPM change, it's just gonna sound clean going across, right? But as I was doing this, I said, you know what, I wanna bring this down a couple of steps. So I went here to key and I brought it down by about 5 steps here. So let's go back to the beginning here and listen to it. Whole different feeling here, right? So what I was able to do is I was able to put cue points at the place or places where I wanted those to be kind of trigger off and happen. And based upon that, I could use these auto set features here to be able to change it if I needed to in some form or fashion. So on this second one here, I actually messed with the release here a little bit. So that way it would kind of tail off instead of playing straight through, right? So this one here was doing that, while this one here was kind of playing straight through. And then on this one here, I created a region, so that way it will only play from one place to another and kind of stop, right? What's great about Serato Sample is that it will give you the ability to take one sample and do multiple cue points, and with those cue points, you can do multiple actions, right? So instead of you having to load up a sample 5, 6, 7, 8 times to do multiple things, you can have it in one sampler inside of Serato Sample, and then do multiple things with the cue points to that one sample. So it makes the workflow way much easier and more intuitive for you to be able to chop your samples up, right? So based upon that, I recorded the MIDI by using the keyboard and or drum pad that I have here, and that became this. Okay, cool. So we got that there, and from there I wanted to add something else in here to kind of create some more texture. So I went here to this vocal sample here. I'm going to take this off of solo and add this in. And again, I wanted to use the stems to show the power of it, but also grab a part that would have been really difficult to have otherwise, right? So let's go here and add back in all the parts. You see the waveform just changed there. Again, this is in sync at 91, but the original BPM was 72 beats per minute. And again, I changed the key in order for it to match up by harmonics, right? So if I go back here, I'm just going to play it from back here or so. Delphonics track, crazy. Let's take out the drums. Drums out. Bass out. Vocals. So I just wanted to be able to catch some little vocal stabs, right? So this is the first one here, where again, cue point and a region there, and then also setting the release, right? So it kind of tails off right before it ends, right? And another one over here. Okay, put it back into sync, and I also then put it into the key that it should be in, right? And those two things together became this. Okay, cool. So I had those two pieces there, and I wanted to kind of create some drums and then also bass line to add into this. So let's go to the bass first. So instead of me going to a sample, a song to be able to chop up, I actually took a one-shot sound and added it in and put it into keyboard mode. So let's go over here to Serato Sample, and I have this sound that's here, this heavy 808 kind of booming bass kick, right? Super heavy, right? And what I did was I put the cue point, not at the beginning of the file, but somewhere towards the middle, because I didn't want the full attack of the 808. I wanted to catch it a little bit later. So I put a cue point there. And then I put it into keyboard mode, which is this little symbol right here on the pad. And what that does is it allows me to now be able to play this 808 across the 88 keys on the keyboard. And it will keep it in time regardless of how high or low that I go in the octave scales, right? And even in semitones, right? Now with most samplers, once you're at middle C, if you go up above middle C, it starts to speed the sample up, or below middle C, it starts to slow the sample down. Because of pitch and time built inside of this, it keeps the timing of the sample all the way through, right? So allow me to be able to start to play some bass notes and kind of do some interesting things. What's great about this being in keyboard mode, especially because I'm in mono mode, which means I can play one note at a time, is that I have glide here. And with glide, what this does is allows me to be able to bend the notes kind of across each other. So if you listen to trap and you listen to a lot of other kind of electronic styles of music, drill, and even some house music, you'll notice that there are a lot of bending 808s that are there. This will allow you to do that with the glide here, right? So because I had that all set up, and I have this recorded in MIDI, then it became this. So you can hear that bend happening with the 808 right here. Okay, cool, so we got that there. And from this, I wanted to just kind of add on some kicks and hi-hats and so on and so forth. So I went through and just made a bunch of instances of Serato Sample where I was able to add in the kicks. So here goes a kick right here, right? And was able to program that. Same thing with the snare. Right? And even some hi-hats here as well. Right? And to kind of round that off, I had another sample that was down here, this little hey sound. Sorry, that needs to be soloed. Sorry, here we go. Right? And another little boom sound down here as well. So all those things put together, I was able to build the beginning of the track like this. Okay, cool. Now, when I first started producing, I started off on an MPC 2000 XL. I bought a Triton, I had Pro Tools LE, and I was trying to figure out how to be my favorite producers across the board, from Pete Rock to Diamond D to Just Blaze to whoever, right? Like I was like trying to figure out how to be in their worlds, right? And a lot of times what I was doing was I was trying to find these samples to be able to match up with each other to work. But the problem was is that sometimes there might be a drum break somewhere where I wanted it, but then there was some music on top of it, so I couldn't get to the drums right away, right? There might have been a melodic sample there, but then there were drums there that I couldn't take out to program my own drums, or even the bass line was there and I wanted to take that away to add my own bass line in from the Triton, or vice versa, right? Or I had 3 different samples that I wanted to bring together and they were out of key and different times and so on and so forth, right? All those things were clashing and it became difficult. And sometimes between some filtering and EQing and certain chopping techniques, I was able to get some results, but it took a lot of time, right? Now adding this in with stems with Serato Sample, those things become eliminated. I don't need the drums there, take them out. I don't need the bass line there, take it out. Or maybe I need the bass line in, I can leave it in, but take out the vocals and the melody. I can do all kinds of different things now with speed and efficiency because of Serato Sample 2.0, right? So let's take this a step further with this part of the track. So that was the beginnings of it. And from this point here, I wanted to add in some extra parts. So I went to another sample that was here. And I'm gonna bring this back in so you can see everything as well. And you can see in real time, which is so crazy to me. It still bugs me out that you can literally see the waveform changing. You know that things are being added or taken away with the audio. So let's go back here and listen to this again in its original form here. Take out the drums. Take out the bass, take out the vocal, and now we just have that melody part there with that kind of nice little chords and little guitar kind of vibe right there, right? And as I was going through, I said, you know what, there's a little guitar lick right here that I want. So again, I made a region for it, I put it into keyboard mode, and then I was able to start to play it up and down the scale to figure out how to build a trigger it, right? So it sounds very simple, right? But then once you start hearing it with all the other pieces, it starts to make sense, right? So just by itself, Actually, let me put that again, sorry, back into its original key, or the key that I need it to be in. So time stretch it down, or key shift it down, pardon me. And let's also sync it so it lines up. So here we go. There we go. Again, super simple, but let's add in the sample that I had before, right? Which was here. Okay, so we got those two things there. I wanted to add in a drum loop here, right? So I went here and added in another sample. Let's go solo this so we can hear what's happening. So adding all the pieces again back in and taking out the sync. Let's play this here from around here. Taking out the bass. Taking out the melody, so now we have the drums and the vocal, and just the drums there, right? And I kind of wanted that kind of like shakers, like light kind of like kick snare kind of thing going on right there, right? So again, putting it into sync, and with it programmed, right, added on with the sample. It's a little background texture, right? And let's bring that bass back in as well. Okay, cool. And let's bring in the rest of the sounds here as well and say play it from this time here. Okay, cool. So that was that section of the track. And then I got into another section. So I said, okay, what can I do to kind of make this a little bit different here as well, right? So we got the guitar lick, we got the sample, we got the drum loop. I wanted to add in a synth, right? So this is one of my favorite things about Serato Sample 2.0. And actually, you could do this in Serato Sample previous as well, but I use it all the time, right? Is I like to take one-shot sounds, right? Simple one-shot note, like, you know, middle C on whatever keyboard sound, right? And then put it inside of Serato Sample, and then put it into keyboard mode and put it into poly, so I can start to play chords with that one-shot sound, right? So with this here, again, loading it up, I had this sound here, this little brass sound, right? And I put it into the keyboard mode right here, which allowed me then to be able to play it as chords. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the best chord player, right? I can kind of figure out, you know, a couple things here and there, but I use chord generators all the time, like a lot of people do, right? And I'm not gonna front and say I don't, right? So I was able to use this chord generator here real quick and figure out some quick chords, right? And then based upon that, I came up with this. Real quick, simple chord, right? Sounds basic, but then we start adding in this with all the other parts, it becomes this. Okay, cool. Now, in this little section right here, right before we get back into the main section, I threw in another drum loop, right? So I went to another sample here, and it's different, complete different song, and I wanted to kind of capture a little bit of the vibe of that there. So again, playing it in its original BPM and adding in all the other parts to the track. Let's go back here and play this. Cool, got that there. Now in sync, right? And I just added on a plugin to kind of beef up the drums a little bit, right? As it was by itself, cool, but I wanted to kind of fatten it up a little bit. So I used a quick little plugin here, right? A little free plugin to be able to beef up those drums. Right? And then once that's added in with everything else, from that point, taking this out of solo. Right, and then back into the beat again, right? So was able to really be able to kind of come together with, let's say, 5 or 6 different samples that are in different keys, different BPMs, figuring out which parts that I wanted to use based on the stems. Some stuff I wanted to be just melody. Some stuff I just wanted to be drums, right? Some stuff I wanted just to be vocals, to add in some extra textures and flavors. And then adding on one-shots, right? Sounds that you can download, again, from those Serato packs. If you go to serato.com/sample to get the free sound packs that are there, you can take those sounds and put them inside of Serato Sample and then use them in keyboard mode, or even if you want to use the stems to separate certain parts to be able to use, you can add that here. So taking all those pieces and adding them together, I was able to make this for the tutorial video that you'll be able to see right now on youtube.com/SeratoHQ, where all the tutorials are at, right? So again, adding all that stuff together, I made this probably plus or minus about like 45 minutes or so as I kind of sat down and said, okay, I want this, I want that, kind of put the pieces together. Again, had I been trying to do this in another program and or piece of hardware, it would have taken me many more steps to be able to get to this finishing point, right? Within 45 minutes or even sooner than that, right? Because of the fact that I'm in my DAW, I know the workflow that I'm used to, and I can now start to separate the pieces that I need to put it together, just changes the game automatically, right? And I don't have to worry again about key and BPM, it just syncs everything and locks everything in. Absolutely amazing, right? So this is the first example that I have here. Now, this is more kind of like a slight hip hop tip. And actually, before I jump, I want to show you one thing that's actually really dope about this as well. The time stretching with Serato Sample. It is bar none best thing on the market, right? And again, you saw that I was able to change the key and change the tempo on the samples. But let's say that I wanted to speed up or slow down this whole track, right? I'm using multiple instances of Serato Sample in here. Right now I'm at 91 beats per minute. And let's say I want to speed this up or slow it down. The only thing I need to do is change the tempo of my session and everything will move at the same time, either faster or slower. So let's give that a go real quick. Here at 91, let's speed it up. We're at 122 right now. Let's go a little higher. 142, let's come down. 84, 65, 50. Let's bring it back up again to 91. So just that easy, I was able to go up almost to 142 beats per minute, literally just by changing the tempo, right? And then down to about 50 beats per minute. No artifacts, no glitches, extremely clean. And this is because of the pitch and time algorithm built inside of Serato Sample. You tell me you find something else on the market that does this clean, let's have a conversation, right? This is real here with Serato Sample, especially with 2.0 and the stems added in, bananas, right? So again, let's go into another joint. I have another tutorial here that I did, and this is more on the kind of more dance tip side of things, right? So let this load up inside of Logic. Now, I'm using Logic here for these tutorials, right? But this will work inside of FL Studio, Machine, Ableton, and pretty much any DAW that uses a VST, VST3, or audio units plugin, right? So you can use this kind of across the board. And again, if you're using Pro Tools, as long as you have a VST wrapper, you'll be able to use it there as well. We have a video with Jake One, incredible producer, great guy. He's produced for everybody across the board. Banger joints, you know, Rock Cocaine Flow, that De La is my favorite of his, but he has so many more across the board. But he is using Serato Sample, and he's using it inside of Pro Tools with a VST wrapper. So if you're a Pro Tools user, this can also be for you as well, right? So I wanted to, in this instance, for this example, wanted to take a track and remix it to kind of give more of a dance feel, right? So you can use this in like dance music, whether it be house or new disco or whatever the case may be for sampling, or if you want to do this for hip hop and soul and trap and whatever else, right? You can use this across the board. So there's a track by a woman named Gloria Tells. She's a really dope singer. I like her vibe a lot. And was able to clear the sample to be able to use it. And when I heard it, I was like, yo, this is a vibe, but I want to kind of pick it up and go a little bit different than the original. So I'm going to play a little bit of it here so you can kind of get a sense of what it is. And then from there, you'll see what I did to kind of pull all the pieces together. So I'm just going to solo this here, and we'll listen to the original.
Sit down, sister. It's not worth your time. We got much more to do.
Take out the bass. Kick is there.
Stop trying.
Drums out.
Who you are, honey. You'll find.
Just a cappella. That clean and that quick. Bananas. Crazy, right? So as soon as I knew I got the acapella, I was like, oh, I'm about to go just totally in on this and have a lot of fun, right? So a little bit of a cheat code here, right? Normally, if you get an acapella, it's not lined up per se to a beat. You just have the acapella as it is, right? So then you have to try to find where the one is at and then try to lock it in to BPM, and then also then trying to time stretch it depending on what your BPM is, right? So it can be kind of a difficult thing. I know a lot of people who use Ableton and will have tried to do that just with the acapella, and they have to do a lot of, kind of warping and stretching and chopping and so on and so forth to get the acapella to fit in right away, right? Which is possible, but it takes a lot of time, and we don't have a lot of time. We want to get to the point right away, right? Because this whole track is set on a grid, right? You'll see here these lines that are here. This is the grid on the track, right? And this is a quantized track as well, so everything's kind of just going to line up, right? If I go back to the beginning of the track, you'll see that the grid starts here. And if I hover over right here, you can see that the grid is here. With the grid being here, I can see that it's lining up and landing on the one throughout the song, right? And if by chance it does fall off, then I can come here and I can set a new grid to fix it so that way it stays on time going throughout the rest of the song, right? So if you have a live song where there's kind of different grooves happening, different BPM swings and tempos happening by small fluctuations, you can go through and fix those grid points for everything to lock in, right? But I don't have to do that here. But because the whole song is set to a grid, when I take out the parts, it's still going to be in time. I don't have to worry about it, even if it does do the time stretching, right? So I'm going to take out the grid here, at least that you don't see that grid part there. And here, instead of it playing at 109, I had it sync up to be at 120 for my session here, right? So when it plays back now, it plays as such.
Sit down, sister. It's not worth your time. We got much more to do.
So that's set, right? With that being said, I went through and I set up different cue points along the track where I wanted to be able to catch the verse, the chorus, all the different parts of the song, so I could then record those parts in MIDI on the track here, right? So that's what you see here lined up, right? I also put stars here for favorites, and the reason why I have the stars here is this. If by chance I wanted to do some searching for different vocal chops to be able to work with, I could potentially come here and press find samples, right? And when I do that, it's going to automatically fill in all the 32 pads here. And then I can start to go through and figure out different chops that I want to work with, right? If I wanted to do some more discovery, and let's say I did find the ones that I liked, if I favorite them by pressing the star here, right, then those will always be there. So when I press find samples again, those ones don't get replaced, and it still kind of does the discovery for me to find different samples to be able to work with, right? You can do that with find samples. You can also do that with also set random, right? Difference between find samples and set random is really more kind of taking like 32 darts and throwing them against the wall, right? You kind of hope they land somewhere interesting. It might land on a happy mistake, and the happy mistake might give you the next idea for your track, right? Whereas find samples is looking more towards transients to see where it can land and lock in on, right? What I'm gonna do, just because I don't want all these extra cue points here, I'm gonna use this undo button here, right? So if you make a mistake with you using the samples for find samples or anything else, you can undo by going like this here, clicking on it, and those will go away, right? So once the vocal was set, then I wanted to create some chords here. So I went here to, again, Serato Sample. I found a sound that I liked, and I'm gonna play it here. Right, very simple sound that I added in, right? I put it into keyboard mode, adjusted the level, and I also put the cue point at the end of the sample instead of it being at the beginning. You'll notice again here when I play this, there's a very sharp attack at the beginning of the sample, and I didn't want that. I wanted to catch the tail end where there wasn't the attack there. So I put it in here, and then I put it into reverse so that way it would play backwards, right? And I also synced it and then half-timed it so it would play slower so I could drag out that sample to get more out of the chords, right? Again, I'm not the crazy keyboard player, right? But I can hear and understand kind of musically where chords would fit and kind of come together. So I used, again, a quick little plug-in to be to help me figure out the chords, and that became these chords here. And we'll get into the vocal in a second. Big up to everybody who's watching live on the YouTube right now. Big up.
Sit down, sister. It's not worth your time.
Okay, so once I got that down, I was okay, cool. I got a little section here. Let me figure out, again, drums here. So I went in and added in a kick. Again, Serato Sample. Now, you don't always have to use Serato Sample for everything, right? I like to use it because it gives you some freedoms sometimes that I might not have with other samplers, right? You can do whatever you want, but I find freedom in using sample a lot in my tracks, right? So I got my kick here, right? I have some hi-hats. Now with the hi-hats, what I did was I went through and put different cue points at the transients where I wanted to be able to chop the hi-hats and replay them. Let's play this original as it was. Big up to decap on these hi-hats here. I use these all the time. So what I did was I put the transients, or sorry, I put the cue points at the transients, right, and set them up. Right? And then once they were all set up, I put it into sync, and then I played my own pattern to the hi-hats, right? So I created a different vibe here. So let's go back to the beginning and kind of pick it up from here.
Sit down, sister. It's not worth
And I also added a little rim shot here too.
We got much more to do while we are in crime. Yeah. Stop trying to change who you
Now,
are.
coming up here,
You'll find
I did some automation where I filtered
all workers are queens, all women with
the keys here with the automation. You can see it drawn in there.
we're gonna have that.
Right, so basically what I was able to do inside of Logic, and you can do this in Ableton or any other DAW, is you can go through it and find the parameter, right, that makes sense. Here, this was cue point filter number 1, right, under Serato Sample. And once I chose it, I was able to draw in the automation for it to filter out and then filter back in again to kind of create the build leading up to the chorus, right? So that's very easy to do. I do it all the time with a lot of tracks. You'll see that it happens a little bit later on in the track here as well, right? So automation, definitely rock with that if you have the opportunity to be able to do so, right? Before we get into the chorus, I added in another version of Serato Sample here with some little bleeps, this little sound right here. Very simple, but I was able to do some programming with it to make a little build up here. And then once I got to the chorus, I added in another instance of Serato Sample with another sound, right? One-shot sound, but it was again able to make chords with it. And then I also added in a bass line, right? Again, the bass that you saw in the previous example, I use that same bass sound here to be able to program the bass sound, again, using keyboard mode so I can play it across the keys there, right? So all those things there, and then adding in some claps and tambourines, and also an arpeggiator as well, which is actually pretty fun here. So with this here, again, a very simple sound, right? But I was able to put an arpeggiator on it, and it started to arpeggiate. So let's kind of bring this back here from where the verse starts, and then lead into the chorus. You can see how it builds all up together.
is not worth your time. We got much more to do while we are in a crime. Yeah. Stop trying to change who you are.
Again, that acapella there, super clean.
Fine.
That filter coming in.
All of us are queens. All women with queens.
Those little bleeps coming in.
The world is ours. Hey, we're gonna have that
The arpeggiator happening right here.
we're gonna take that
Those additional keys happening right here as well with the chords. That bass line happening right there as well. Okay, cool. So when I got to this section here, I wanted to bring in another sound to start playing with, right? So I went to here, again, found that same brass sound that I used in the previous example and was able to set up in keyboard mode. And in keyboard mode, again, using the chord generator to be able to create a little chord section. So let's just solo this. You can hear it from here. That automation happening right there as well. So with all those different parts, I have, let's see here, almost about 13 different instances of Serato Sample here doing something one another. Acapellas, keyboard mode, playing drums, chopping up hi-hats, so on and so forth. A bunch of one-shot sounds that normally would just sound basic by themselves, but being able to put into keyboard mode inside of Serato Sample with that time stretching, sounding now like a full song, right? And this giving a little bit of a twist, my feel, to what I hear what she's done as my own type of remix, right? This here done as a tutorial that's on Serato.com. You can look at it on the sample page or on YouTube as well to see the tutorial on how you can use the acapellas to be able to make this happen, right? But you know, this is what you can do, right? You can take sample and flip it in so many different types of ways for your remixes, for your edits, for your original productions, so on and so forth, by being able to extract those parts very easily and then use it to your advantage, right? I want to give a big shout out to a guy from Disclosure. During pandemic, we found out that Guy and his brother had been using sample on a lot of their tracks, right? So we actually reached out to them and they did a version of the Serato's Kitchen, or at least Guy did, where he used multiple instances of Serato Sample with a bunch of different samples to create a house track. And once I saw him do that, I was like, oh wait, I could do this, like at least I can try to do it. I'm not Guy by any means. I love Disclosure, hands down one of my favorites, but at least I can try to get close enough, right? And this allowed me to be able to do that by having the power of Serato Sample here inside of Logic to make that happen. So again, big up to Guy and Disclosure and all the other people that are out there using sample as well. So many records have been made using sample over the past number of years. It's crazy to think, you know, people like, you know, DJ Dahi and Kenny Dope and Spinna and Rashad Smith and a bunch of other people who are using sample on a regular basis and have hit records out because of the power of sample with some of our favorite artists that are out there. You know, even people like Amber from Moonchild. Oh my God, big up Amber, she's incredible. And seeing what she's doing with it, with her voice adding in to create instruments and sounds and sample and chop and so on and so forth is super powerful. So big up to everybody out there using sample. If you have not already, make sure you go to Serato.com right now and download Serato Sample 2.0 with the stems, and you can get busy, okay? So let's try something new here. So I'm gonna set up a new session here, and fingers crossed all this works out in the right way. I'm going to open up an instance of Serato Sample here, so I have it. And I have some samples that I've kind of pulled, and I think I kind of know what I want to do with it, but we'll kind of try this in real time and see if we can make it work. There might be some mistakes here. If there is, pardon me, we're doing this in real time, but let's see if we can make something happen. So I'm going to go here to my samples, and I'm going to grab this sample here. This guy named Ryan James Carr, super dope drummer and producer. I'm digging a lot of his stuff. We were able to clear one of his tracks to be able to use. So let's go ahead and listen to this real quick and kind of get a vibe for what it is, and then we'll see if we can flip this in some way. I love drum breaks, and he is a dope drummer. So there's probably a break in here somewhere that I can use to be able to flip. So let's go listen to this. Let's slow this down to about 95 beats per minute. Much better. Whew. There's some crazy fills in here. Let's take out the bass. Okay, I think I hear something. Right there. Okay, cool. So what I want to do is get right to that transient. I can use the plus or minus sign here to be able to zoom in, zoom out on the waveform. I can also hover over here and then do the same thing, right? And I want to get this right close to the transient, and I want to press my first pad here, and let's listen to that. Okay, dope. So again, as I was saying before, my old MPC days, always looking to find different breaks, chops to be able to work with. I'll have to wait for the kind of like open space in the song where, you know, the drummer got some, right, to be able to get that break. There's bass here, there's keys here, there's a bunch of instruments that are here, and I wouldn't be able to get to this part otherwise, right? Again, if I try to put everything back in and play that, I can't solo those drums. Even if I try to filter it, it still wouldn't sound the same. So now I'm going to take out those parts, clean drums. Okay, cool. With that being said, I want to beef these up just a little bit, so I'm going to go to my little OTT, and I'm going to just kind of trash them a little bit. Too much, so let's bring down a little bit here. I want to bring up a little bass in here, maybe mess around with a little bit of lows, maybe a little mids. Okay, cool. Got the drums in an interesting place. Let's try to record this real quick into MIDI and see if we can get this to lock in the right way. So here we go. Okay, cool. We got that there, and I'm just gonna come in here real fast and just clean up the notes a little bit, just to make sure everything loops up in the right way. And there we go there too. I gotta give a big shout out to my man Undercut. I didn't mention him before when we were doing the Serato Sample tutorials. He was a huge, huge help. Big up to Undercut as well. And again, make sure you go watch the tutorials, because the things that I'm doing here, we show a lot of these things in the tutorials. So go to youtube.com/Serato HQ and watch the tutorials, and you'll get a good understanding of all the things that are happening here. So here goes the loop. Okay, good. I like that, right? So let's grab another sample. So I'm gonna do another instance of Serato Sample here. So I'm gonna create that here, and I'm going to go back over to my samples, and I got this other one here. It's a really interesting sample here. So I'm gonna take this, click and drag it over. Again, we've been able to clear this sample to be able to use. So let's listen to the sample here. That's a little groovy, I like this. So what I could do here is I could press Find Samples, and it would give me samples to start working with. Right, so I could go through and kind of start figuring out different chops if I want to, right? But let's listen to this a bit more, because I might make my own chops up here as I'm going along. So let's listen from about here or so. If I want to get rid of all those different cue points that were there, select all, and then press the trash can, and you can get rid of them, and they're gone, right? So let's play it from about here or so. Let's see what's here. Probably gonna be that melody somewhere in there with those horns and such. This is a groove right here. With that flute too? Okay, bet, right here. So let's go through again, take out the bass, let's take out the drums and the vocals, and we have now. This is crazy. Now, the timing of where the instruments are coming in versus where my drums are kind of two different things, right? Like if I had all of the instruments in and was trying to play it to the drums that I looped up, it would probably sound kind of crazy, right? But now because I have the instruments kind of separated in just that melody section there, I can chop this to my drums to make it work. So let's start around here and see if we can try to make something happen. So I might do this here. Okay, and I might want to do something maybe around here. Let's see here. And I want that. See what happens here. Let's change that up just a little bit and maybe bring it back here. It's there. Got it. Right here. Okay, let's try this. Okay, so we're getting somewhere close, but what I want to do is I want to bring this down about 5 steps. Let's do here. Okay, let's try to record that and see what we come with. And And let's just go fix the MIDI up here real quick, just to make sure this all kind of lines up in the right way as well. And this was so great about Sample 2 is that you have the ability, once you have all the MIDI parts here, you can start to adjust to make sure everything lines in and kind of locks in the right way as it should, right? So real quick, kind of just fixing these little parts here. Make sure there aren't any little gaps. And hopefully this will come together in the right way. We'll see what's up. Boom. Cool. And actually, because this is all right here, what I might do is just copy this here, take this out here, and then because the playhead is here, I will then paste those there. Okay, just about right. You know what? Here in the beginning where the sample starts at, I'm gonna bring that back a little bit just so it doesn't start exactly on the one. Maybe filter everything. So I'm gonna select all, and then now with select all, I can take the filter and affect all of the pads at the same time. And let's make sure with the kick as well, with the drums, just to make sure it's lining up. I want to just bring that back just a little bit too as well, just a little bit off. Maybe it's a little more to here, actually here. Okay, and the last thing I want to do is I want to add on a little side chain. Love side chain, so I'm going to go to my little side kick 2 here and just give a little. Okay. So little basis for track here. Let's add on another instance of Serato Sample. So here we go, let's create it. And this time I think I want to try to figure out some chords to add into this as well. So let's go back over here to my samples. And I got a little bit of a sound, which is here. And we grab this and bring it over and drop it in, right? So again, that same sound I was using before, using it here, right? So, and I want to do the same thing that I did before, where I'm going to play it backwards instead of playing it forward, right? So I'm going to set up the cue point. Let's make sure I'm in the right octave. Now, this is also something really important to note, right? You can use Serato Sample inside your favorite DAW using just the typing keyboard, or you can use a MIDI controller like this one here, the Akai MPK Mini, or you can use the MPD controllers, or if you have one from like Alesis or Native Instruments or Arturia, or whatever the case may be, you can use any kind of drum pad machine controller to be able to control things inside of Serato Sample. But you want to make sure that you're in the right octave for everything to work, right? So Sample needs to be in the range between C1 and D#2 in order for it to catch all the notes. If you are below C1 or above D#2, it's going to warn you that you're not in the right way, right? So in this example here, if I have the keyboard on for Logic, you'll see here that the octave that I'm in right now is in C2. And if I press the letter A, it's going to set the cue point here instead of it being here at the beginning, right? So I don't want that. I want to make sure that I go down an octave. So if I use the letters Z or X, Z will take you down an octave, or X taking you up an octave, right? So let's go down Z. Now this is in C1, and when I press the letter A, it's now triggering it from there going forward. If I go down below that, right? So now I'm at C0, and I go to press it, you'll see here that a note comes up, right? Saying C0 is out of range. You need to go up to be able to get into the right range. So let's go back up with X to get to C1, and then there I am able to play. So just keep that in mind as you're working with your samples. If you happen to fall out of place, you know what to do to kind of get it to work in the right way, right? Because I have my keyboard here, then I'm going to use the keyboard instead of using the typing keyboard inside of Logic. But you can do the keyboard typing with Ableton, with FL Studio, and other DAWs as well, right? So cue point's there, but I want to take this and I want to drag it back here to the end, and I also want to put it into reverse. So now it's playing backwards. I want to put the pitch and time on, and I want to time stretch it so it plays slower so I can get more out of it, right? And what I want to do is get my little chord generator set up. So again, locking that in the right way. And I think I know the keys that I want to use. Let me find them very quickly. It should be these here. Cool. All right, bet. And now that I have that set, let me actually put this in the keyboard mode so it can work. There we go, pardon me. So there we go, and put it here, press this little keyboard right here, and this, there we go. Let me put it into the right octave. Sorry. The reason why this is not working, and this is also another key point as well if you want to play chords. Right now I'm in mono mode, which means it's only going to play one note at a time. If I wanted to play chords, I need to put it into poly here. There we go. Whew, good Jesus. All right, so let's see if I can figure out the chords here. Okay, let's see if this works. I'm going to turn this down a little bit because it's kind of loud here. Bring it down a little bit. There we go. Oops, I'm sorry. I made a mistake, so let's undo that by pressing the undo there. There we go. Got it. Okay. Sorry, one more time with the undo. And again, let's put this back in the keyboard mode. And poly. There we go. Cool. Okay, let's bring that down a little bit as well. Again, just because it's a little too loud, but just kind of create a little vibe here. There we go. Okay, cool. So I think we got a little something there, but I want to kind of add a little extra flavor to this and also to the sample as well. So I'm going to start to add on a couple little plugins here just to kind of give a little life. So I love my little Rolling Cloud Juno 60 chorus here. Rock with this all the time. Just bring this down just a little bit, but just enough to be able to give. There we go. All right, try this out. There we go. Sorry, messing around. Okay, so let's record that real quick so I don't mess around too much more. But you can see I'm getting a little bit of a vibe here, I think. Hopefully you like this. So let's go over here real quick. All right, not bad, not bad. We're in a good place right here. I think I want to try to add in one more sample here to this and see if we can try to add a little extra texture, right? And I'm just building the basics of something. I'm not going to build out a whole full track, just to kind of show you all the things that you can do with samples. So far, we've been able to eliminate the bass, the melody, and what would be vocals if they were there, to just get the drum break, right? So we found a nice little drum break there, and then I was able then to go through and then find another sample and get the melody from it. So it took out the bass and the drums, and if there were vocals there, would have taken that out as well, just to get the melody, and then chop that up to create a new pattern, those two things together, and then took a one-shot sample sound, right? And then put it into keyboard mode to be able to create the chords, right? So we have that here built up so far. Let's add in a little arpeggiator type vibe here as well. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to do this. I'm going to delete that track there. I'm going to duplicate the track that I have here. Now, because I'm duplicating this, right, I'm still able to keep the chords there, plus then the plugins I have here and the instance of Serato Sample that's here, right? So if I wanted to do something different with that same sample, I could, or I could get rid of the sample, still have the structure still set up, and then go back and put another sample in. So I have this little one right here, and I'm going to bring this over, if it decides to go. There we go, and load it in. And again, set up the cue point, right? So here at the beginning, put it into keyboard mode. And what I want to do is I want to put this into poly. I want to put it into the one-shot mode here so it keeps on playing straight through. And right below where I have my chord generator, I'm going to put an arpeggiator here, right, inside of Logic. And I'm kind of going to mess around with this a little bit just to kind of get it to do some stuff. Let's play around with this and see what we come up with. But I think I might be able to get a little bit of a interesting vibe here if I mess around with this in the right way. Let's try like this and see. So again, the same chord structure that I had before, right? With now an arpeggiator and a new sound. And let's just solo the two of those things together. Actually, let's bring those notes down too. So now he's going to play the same thing. Whew. Okay, so we got that there. And what I want to do is I want to add on, before we get to the side chain, I want to add in a little bit of delay echo here with this little plugin here from Native Instruments. Let's just kind of mess around with this a little bit just to kind of get it to fit to where we want it to be. There we go. Let's bring that all together. Okay, so we got something pretty interesting here. I want to take this somewhere slightly different. So I want to keep these drums. I might keep the chords. No, actually I'm going to keep all this. Sorry, one last thing. I'm not even thinking about this. We need some bass. So again, Serato Sample, set up here, new instance. Let's go back to my sounds, and let's grab this little bass sound here and bring it over. There we go, and let's drop it in. And again, I want to bring it to about here, and I want to, oops, got to put this into the right octave range. There we go. We can get rid of this one here, and I'm going to change the key down a couple steps. Oops, I'm making mistakes here, so let me undo those. right? Because I need to put this into keyboard mode, remember, right? So keyboard mode now, I can start to play it. My octave is too low, right? And I'm gonna turn the volume up on this as well. And I wanna dirty this up a little bit, so I'm gonna go to my audio units and go to good old RC20. And I want to take everything out except for the distortion. And I want to kind of just like go kind of crazy with this. Right, bring that up a little. Cool, got that, right? And okay, so let's record that there real quick to a little bass line. Let's take out the sample. Okay, cool. So we got a little bass line here. So we got the beginnings of a nice little situation here. I'm gonna take one more step in doing something slightly different. I wanna take the ideas here, but use a different sample and see what I can come up with as well. And I wanna show you one trick that's really helpful by doing this, right? And then we'll wrap up pretty soon. So I'm going to move over here a little bit. I'm gonna take the drums over here, bring those over. So I have those looping here. Okay, I want to do a different instance of Serato Sample here, and I want to go get another sample. So this sample here that I'm going to bring in is a loop that is from a sound pack from a organization called Agenda Amplified. Big up to Ebony Smith and the whole Agenda Amplified team. We did a sound pack with them for Serato Studio, a bunch of women and non-binary folks who came together, producers, all young and incredible what they do, different keyboard players and drummers and programmers and so on and so forth. And we locked into a studio with them for about 3 days for them to be able to come together and build a bunch of sounds based off a bunch of analog gear, 808s and Prophets and Moogs and Junos and a whole bunch of stuff. And they made a bunch of sounds for Serato Studio. You can find that right now on Serato.com under the sound packs for Serato Studio. So I'm gonna use that sample here. But remember, if you do need free sounds, we have free sounds that are for Serato Sample, 2 packs that are there that you can download from Serato.com /sample right now. So here, what I wanna do is I want to use a feature here called Set Slicer, right? Kind of goes back a little bit to the MPC days, a little bit, right? Where you can basically kind of chop up the sample based on slices, right? What you do is once you get to Set Slicer here, you can choose to do the amount of slices that you want per beat, right? Not per bar, but per beat. So right now it's set to 1, so for every 1 beat, it's going to set up a slice, right? So when I press this here, based upon where the playhead is at on the audio sample, it's automatically going to set up a bunch of slices for me, right? I'm gonna undo that really quickly so you can hear the sample by itself. Okay, cool, so we got that there. So I'm gonna go here to the set slicer, slice it up, and now it should play back like this. All right, and if I now try to play that in time with the drums, so me do it again. There we go, that's what I want right there. I'm gonna put it into trigger mode. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's record that real quick without the sample in. So let's mute the sample for right now. Sorry, the wrong one. Mute this one here. Okay, here we go. And actually everything else too. We don't need that stuff because we're doing something slightly different here. Okay. Again, press record. Sorry, the wrong one is muted. Sorry about that. Put this in record here. There we go. Okay, so we got that there. I'm gonna bring this down. So let's change the key up. Okay, and let's go here to select all, and let's use that big old reverse button right there. Let's mess with the attack as well. Now, what's great about this is that you can come here and not only change the key, but you can also detune it as well. So I'm gonna bring it down to about like 10 cents or so. And I'm gonna also start to mess around with some of the stem stuff too as well. Okay, cool. Let's go back up here to the chords, and let's see here. And so get an idea again here that you can start to build chords with the different type of sample with the chop, right? Now with the chop here, I don't have to necessarily keep it the way that it is with those chops. I could kind of play around with those a little bit. So if I wanted to, I could do right? I could kind of say different patterns if I wanted to as well, right? Now, I wanted to just show you that function there in particular because the chops become really fun when you start to work with different samples as you're going along, right? Two different ways that you can chop, right? You can chop regular, where you can kind of go through the fine samples and then start to work with the chops that way, or do your manual chops, which I did in the beginning here with the original sample, or you can go through and do the slices with the set slicer to be able to make those things happen as well. There's one other thing that's inside of here, and I'm not going to show you right now, but I want to bring it to your attention if you're a DJ, right? The auto set features that are here, again, we have set random, we have set slicer, we have fine samples, we have key shift pad. which is kind of like 16 levels of pitch if you were on your MPC. Right, you would choose your sample that you wanted to work with, and then, or the chop or the pad that you want to work with, and when you press it, it does 16 levels of pitch for you to be able to play with if you want to. And the other one is Serato DJ, right? So if you're a DJ and you're used to having chops from your DJ set that you do for performance, right, a routine, you could take that same file from your DJ library with those different cue points and bring that into Serato Sample, and Serato Sample will recognize those chops, and then those chops will be there automatically for you to start playing with and for you to work with, right? So you can take the routine idea for you DJing and then bring that into your production space, right? So these auto set features are super powerful for you to be able to use, right? So again, just showing you really quickly with the set slicer there to be able to kind of chop up the sample there if you want to and make it happen. I'm kind of more privy towards the original beat that we made over here with the chords, a little bass line and such. So let me just come back over here and just play a little bit of this again one more time. All right, cool. So we made a little something there really quickly, right? This is a little demo just to show you what you can do with Serato Sample. You know, it's really fast, it's really intuitive. It gets you to your ideas quickly, right? There have been too many times where I've said, you know, I want to grab the part from this, and I tried to use something to try to stem it or to try to filter it or try to like extract something out, and it's taking a lot of time, and then it didn't do it right, and it wasn't sounding clean and all the rest of it, and it just kind of messed up my workflow, right? Now with Serato Sample 2.0, all that is at your fingertips inside of your favorite DAW with the click of a button, and you start getting busy super fast, right? So it's here, Serato Sample 2.0. Again, I'm going to take you through the website really quickly so you know where to get it and what you need to do. If you go to Serato.com, my man Jake One is right here using Serato Sample 2.0. Look out for his video, right? When you go to products, you can go up to music production and go down to Serato Sample. And when you click on this, this will take you to the Serato Sample page. You can see all the different features in the program. And if it's your first time checking it out, you can actually, again, watch the overview video, right? What you can do with the stems, with Sample. You can also test out the stems in real time, right? So there's an audio player here where you can press this and you can play around with the different stems to hear how it separates everything in real time. So you can really get a sense of what it does, right? And it gives you, again, more information about how incredible Serato Sample 2.0 is available for you to be able to use. Now, if you want to, you can do a free trial, which gives you 30 days to be able to rock with it for free, test it out, see if you like it. And if you do, then you can choose to either buy or subscribe, right? So when you go to pricing here, you can see that you can subscribe for $9.99 a month, right? Or you can outright purchase it for $149, right? You have it right there available to you. Once you have that set, you can download it here and make sure that you are following the system requirements. That way it will work inside of your DAW. They're all listed right here, Mac and Windows, and make sure that you're following the right operating system for your computer as well, right? If you're on Mac, Ventura, Monterey, and Big Sur are the operating systems that support it. If you're on Windows, it's Windows 11 and also Windows 10, right? VST3 support is here, so this works as audio units, VST and VST3, so you'll be able to rock with it and make it happen, right? As well, you have the tutorials, right? So if you're first time trying to get an understanding of how it works, the setup ones here will show you how to set it up in FL Studio, Logic, Ableton, and Machine. And then also the sampling techniques and the stem separation techniques here with these videos right here for you to be able to watch, right? You can watch them here directly from the website, or you can go to youtube.com/Serato HQ, and you can watch those there and get a vibe for what's going on, right? And again, if you need samples to be able to use for Serato Sample, we have some resources. So here on this page, we have the starter pack here provided by Loopmasters with a bunch of royalty-free samples, and also the Serato Sample Core Pack, which is us gathering a bunch of our sounds and putting them together for you to use inside of Serato Sample royalty-free, right? So you have those all there, and you're set and good to go. So today is an amazing day. I've been waiting for this for a very long time. We've been working extremely hard. Big up again to the whole Serato team who has helped to put this all together. I appreciate and love each and every one of you because we've been able to put together such a great campaign and incredible product to get out to the market. We really do believe in the producers and the DJs. The foundation of Serato is based on that. We want to make sure we give you the best quality product as possible, and Serato 2.0 is exactly that. So make sure you go download it, start using it, make your beats. One last thing as well, make sure that you join our Discord, right? We have a Discord that's set up, and in the Discord, we have a thing called the Serato's Kitchen, where we have beat competitions. We put samples up for people to be able to kind of use and chop up. We get different gifts that are given out weekly by Sweetwater for the Discord, so make sure you join in. There's a great community of producers that are there. They're rocking both with Serato Sample and Serato Studio. So make sure you join the Discord. It's a lot of fun. Make sure you check out the Jake 1 video. We got some more stuff coming up very, very soon for Serato Sample. 2.0 is the beginning. There'll be a 2.1 and a 2.2 and so on and so forth. So we're going to be improving this as we go along. So make sure you follow us in what we're doing. I think that's about it. So thank you all for joining in. My name is OP, Artist Relations Manager for Serato here in the Brooklyn studio. Excited for the release of Serato Sample 2.0. I hope you go out and copy it, make some fire beats. Make sure you tag or hashtag Serato Production, and then at Serato Production on IG and TikTok as well. So we know what you're doing out there with the product. We might repost what you're doing and give you some love. So once again, thank you for joining in and tuning in. Have fun sampling. The future of sampling is here, Serato 2.0. My name's OP. See you soon. Peace.